Hello everyone and welcome back to the Crafty Yellow Camper, and I wanted to share another card I'd made with you using the Peaceful Cabin bundle. So this is the Peaceful Cabin stamp set, and you might notice there isn't actually very much stamping on this card at all. In fact, there is only one element on this card that is stamped on the outside, and I wanted to show you how to use the dies in a different way. Okay, so this is actually an easel card and it stands up like that. Okay, so let's get started and I'll show you how I put it together. Okay, so I started with a base card of our basic white thick card. Unfortunately, the standard basic white isn't really strong enough to make a card base, and that's why we sell the basic white thick as well. It's a little bit chunkier. I'm just going to bring in my bone folder. Now, some people like to score their cards. I tend to prefer to fold mine, but if you're the type of person that wants to score it, this is half of an A4 sheet cut across the middle. So the A4 sheet would carry on that way. If you're in America, your cardstock is a slightly different size to ours, so you could still use half a sheet and the card would still work. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we're going to fold one side into the middle and score, or fold or score, whatever you like to do there. Okay, and that will make our easel for us. Okay, now I'll talk you through the bits and pieces that I've used to decorate the card. And as I said, I've used the Peaceful Cabin dies. And you may recall in one of my other videos that I mentioned that there was a die that layered up. Sorry, I'm just trying to get all my little bits and pieces out. This card's got some tiny pieces. Oh, flicked one on the floor. And in the process knocked over my blocks case. Okay, so as I said, I mentioned in a previous video that there was a die that just cut out the detail of the cabin, and that is this one. And I'm just going in with my take your pick tool with the pokey tool end and taking out the bits that we don't need. Okay, I'll just brush those to one side. Okay, so this is using the same die that cuts out this cabin, and then there is this die here that cuts this snowy detail and the shape of the cabin, and that interlocks into the edgelet die. Okay, I've just realized I've got a little piece of glue or something on there, or a mark, so I'm just going to take that off with my Tombow mono rubber, which is a little bit like a grit rubber. Okay, so what we're going to do is this piece is going to be stuck. Actually, if I bring my completed card in, I can fold it. And you can see this is the fold that here for the easel. And what we're going to do is we're going to stick our cabin slightly above the fold. You need to make sure that it isn't above the top of the card, otherwise it won't fit in an envelope. Okay, so, and again you'll see that this is slightly longer than the card, which is fine, and we can trim that down when we're finished. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the end here to line that up with the right hand side of my card, and then the left hand side just needs a little bit of a trim, but we'll do that in a second. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run some glue along just the bottom for now, because this is going to stick up, don't forget. Should have changed my glue. Okay, so I'm just running some glue along the bottom, and then this, as I said, I'm going to open up my card flat so I can see where the crease is, and this is going to stick just onto the, just slightly below the crease is where it's actually gluing. Okay, and then the cabin is sticking up above the crease so that when we stand the card up, the cabin will stand proud. Okay, and I know we've got a really untidy edge down there, and that's fine because we're going to hide that in a second. So what I'm then going to do is I'm then going to come in with my snips, turn my card over, and I'm just going to trim off that edge there, level with the card, which will give us a neat finish on that left hand side where it was not so neat. Okay, and then the next thing I've got here, obviously we've got this line here that we want to cover up. So the next thing I've got, in the dies, there is also a die that is a border die, and it has the outside image of this tiny, hopefully you can see him, tiny little fox, and he is here in the stamp set. So what you actually get is the edge of the snowbank with the top of the fox. So that's the only piece of stamping that's actually on this card. So I've stamped and die cut out the fox, and there is a tiny little die for him, one of those ones that you always lose, so be careful if you have this set. And I'm just putting a little bit of wet glue, I'm just sliding him off camera so that I can get him over the edge to pick him up. Okay, and then he should, excuse me, he should line up with this edge, and again using wet glue gives you a little bit of wiggle room to line him up, and hopefully if I hold him up you can hold him up you can see him. He stuck himself to my thumb, so let's try that again, shall we? Take two. I'm just sliding him up, there we go. So hopefully you can see there that he is lined up with that die cut. Okay, and that is the piece that we are going to use to go across our card to cover up that edge. Okay, so on this one I'm going to add some dimensionals just to give us a little bit of height in the card, and again just keep an eye on where you're sticking them. Okay, so I've got two at the top and one at the bottom there. Okay, I'm just putting my thumb into those dimensional tops just to crease them a little bit and flick the edges up, which makes it way easier for us to get them off. And then again, I'm opening out my card so it's not bouncing around. Now we want to cover this untidy edge here, so I'm just going to line my fox up, and you can put another layer across here if you want to, but on this one, because it's a nice neat straight edge and we're going to tuck it behind, I'm going to leave that like that, and I will show you what I'm going to do with that in a second. So I've also gone ahead and I've cut some of the trees. So there are the trees that we used on a previous card, and then there are these tools, sort of almost whimsical trees in the die set. Okay, there isn't a stamp to go with these like there are with the other three, and then all I'm going to do with those is I am going to put some dimensionals onto the back of those, because we're keeping this card mainly white, and you might notice there I've got a smudge of glue. So if you do get a smudge of glue like that, leave it to dry, don't try and get it off when it's wet, and I will go back in with a glue rubber once that is dry and remove that. So these are quite skinny, these trees, so we're going to use the edges of our larger size of dimensionals, and you can see I'm just cutting through the middles with my Teflon scissors, and then they are small enough to sort of pop on to the backs of your trees without them showing. Pop that one on there. Oh, it's flipped itself over. Another little skinny one down there, and then I just need a couple more for this bigger tree, so that can have a bigger one at the bottom, and then a little skinny one at the top. So let's lose those out of our way, and then what I'm going to do is flick the backs off those dimensionals, and we're going to add those down here over our border edge. It takes away from that edge again. So we've got there's three slightly different sizes, so I'm just going to layer those up Actually, I think we've got 2 smaller ones and 1 big one. I'm just going to layer those up. I might tuck that one in there, which is very slightly different to my other card, but I like to change it up a little bit if I can. Oh, there we go. Let's just get that one in there, slide him down a little bit more. Okay, so there's our 3 cards. And just to add a little bit of sparkle to this one, this is Shimmery Crystal Effects, which I think may well have retired, but I've got a whole tube of it. So what we're going to do, and you could use some glue, fine glue and glitter for this if you wanted to. I'm just going to go along, again, where the snow would fall. Go along the snowy banks and round the chimney. This obviously does take a little bit of more time to dry, so I will have to leave this flat. I'm just going round and onto the snowy banks here. I'm just going to go along the top of our die cut because that is a snowy bank. Just folding those tree tops out of the way. And then I'm going to go along beside. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing beside the trees, and then we're just going to follow this bank along round Mr. Fox, and I'm just going to put a bit round here where the cut out pieces are, and a bit down the front of the house. And across the porch. Okay, around the edge of that veranda there. Okay, and then I'm just going to go down our trees with a little bit on our branches of our trees, as if the snow had fallen. Excuse me, on our trees. Okay. And my last card class, this was another one of the cards that the ladies made. We had a class where we had no flat cards. They were all fancy folds. Okay, now I'm going to have to leave that to dry. And I'm just going to go along where we've got this border along here, just to make that look a bit neater. I'm just going to go along, and I may well go back and add another piece of the snow to that, but for now I'm going to go along and add some glittery snow. Okay. And I don't know if you can see this, if I hold it up to the camera, whether it'll pick up how shiny it is. When it dries, it will dry sort of almost 3D. I don't think you can see the shine, but trust me, it's got quite a lot of glitter in it. Okay, and then for our stopper, I'll show you again on the original card. I've used 2 of the snowflakes. Now these are from the So Many Snowflakes, I think it's called, which was in last year's autumn seasonal, but carried over into the annual catalogue. Okay, and all I've done is cut those in white, and then I've just purely layered them up with some dimensionals. So on the back of the bigger snowflake is a full-size dimensional, and we're not going to see it once we've got the small one over the top. And then for the smaller snowflake, I've used half, because we are going to see this if it sticks out, half of one of the glue on there, half of one of the edges, and then I'm going to just stick the smaller snowflake over the top of the bigger one. And there is a tiny little bit, oh, I've just stuck it to my desk. Honestly, if I had a brain, I'd be dangerous. Just excuse me while I try and part that from my desk. The back end had come off, and that's meant that it stuck it to my desk. I'll get that off in a minute. So let's try that again. One of the bigger ones. Okay, on there. Now we'll take the back end off, and then that is going to go inside our card. So what we need to do, without squishing the glue, our sparkly glue, we need to stand the card up and then offer up the snowflake, but making sure that it doesn't stick out of the bottom of the card, because otherwise when the card is flat, it won't lay flat. And all I'm going to do now is bring in one of these opal rounds, which are lovely iridescent, can you see that? Lovely iridescent dots. And I'm just going to pick up one of the sort of middle-sized ones. They come in 3 sizes. And I'm just going to pop that into the middle of our snowflake, and that will cover up any bits of the sticky pad that you can see. Okay. Okay. My snips away. Okay, and that, I've just put my thumb on it, is our finished card. And as I said, I've got a little bit of glue here. If I bring that up, you can see it there. And I'm just going to let that dry, and I'm going to let the Crystal Effects dry as well, and then I can go back in with my glue rubber and take that off. And there is our finished card. I'm just going to have to stand that to one side for now because I need that to all dry off. I hope you've enjoyed this reasonably quick tutorial. Not too much waffle from me, hopefully. And I look forward to seeing you on my channel again soon. If you want to share this video with any of your friends, please feel free to. If you like the kind of cards that I'm making, please feel free to subscribe to my channel and click the bell, and then you'll get notifications each time I upload. I'm not a prolific uploader, but I do try and upload once a month. Okay, so that's all from me for today, and hopefully I'll see you all again soon. Happy stamping, and bye for now.